Okay, so we're recording this morning. I'm glad that everybody is joining us who are here live. Those of you who are going to watch the recording, sorry you couldn't be here with us live, but we'll be excited for everybody to get this new little speaker. Now, y'all keep in mind that this little speaker is made of plastic and wood, and so it's not going to give you the sound that you get from the Beats speaker or from a Bose speaker. It sounds like a little wood and plastic speaker, but it's kind of fun putting it together, so we'll enjoy that. When you do get your speaker put together, those of you who are live and those of you who are also watching the recording, make sure that you take a picture of it, text it or send it in Remind to Miss Aviva or Miss Tammy so that they can mark you down as having participated in Science Saturday this month so that you can get your stipend money, okay? All right, I am gonna share my screen with you so that you can see what we are building today. I'm actually not gonna share the screen. I'm actually just gonna share the camera with you. And then if you are, if you're watching, will you give me a thumbs up to tell me that you can see my screen? You should see my box. Thanks, Naviana. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn so that you are going to see the side of my head from this point on as I build. But we're going to focus mostly on what we're building here as we're unpacking and putting our speaker together. Okay, so I'm going to scoot over here so you can see me start unpacking this. I've already built this speaker once. I'm going to turn the camera just so you can see it over here. So there's my laptop. Maybe I'm going to turn it. There's my laptop, and here's the little speaker. It's not real big. I'm going to turn the sound on, so see if you can. So try to get this over closer to the speaker on my computer that's running. So not a lot of sound. It's not real big, but it's a cute, fun little build for us. So we'll get started on that. Okay, let me get this back over here. See if I can't make you lose your mind with the focusing. Let's focus that again so we get it good. Okay, so I'm going to take the cover off my box and get this so I can see people joining the Zoom, because I have some other people who need to join in. Okay, I think we're good. All right, and when you open up your box, if you haven't done a Zoom with us with the kiwico kits before, they are great because they've got a great set of instructions with them. And then all of your parts are available for us. And so I'm just going to pull all of those out and then we'll get the box out of the way. Got a lot of stuff in here. And the only other thing that you're going to need today are a pair of scissors. And you could probably get by without them, but they'll help out a little bit. We've got a couple of little pieces of electronics that we're going to do some cutting on. And so we've got all these pieces out. I'm going to move them out of the way as I need them. I'm going to go ahead and open up my electronics and get that tray open so that I can have access to those. I always go in and build whatever it is that we're working on ahead of time once so that I know what I need to keep in mind as we're working on things. You've got 2 or 3 things where you're going to have some extra pieces. That's just in case things break or one of them is not working and you need to have an extra one to work with. We'll always have extra foam pieces as we stick things together. And so you'll see that you'll have some things left over as we work through this project. Okay, so there's always, when you do these Kiwi kits, because as I look at the list, I'm not sure that any of you all have, I'm not sure that any of you all have built with us before. So when you get these kits, there's always a really nice book with them. It gives you background information about the project that you're working on, gives you some history. So if it's going to be something that is, you know, that's had a really cool historical development to it, they're going to talk about that. It's always got really good diagrams. You have a materials list. And I have never done one of these where you didn't at least have exactly what you needed, but also some extra stuff as well. And then we get in and start talking about the build and what we're doing. So a lot of what we're doing today is electronic. The construction of it is really not all that complicated. And the electronics of it is not really all that complicated. And this is a circuit diagram. This tells you what we're going to put together. So when you look here, that's the symbol for a battery. So we've got 2 batteries and a battery pack that we're going to put together. And then we're going to have our circuit that we're going to put together. And in our circuit, we're going to use transistors, and we're going to use resistors and capacitors. And then we've got our speaker component that we're going to put together. And we'll talk a little bit about how the sound is created with that. But this diagram tells you how we're going to put all of those things together. And if you've never looked at a circuit diagram before, it either A, looks really simple, or it looks really complicated. It's not a complicated build, but the parts that we're using are really small. So we're going to incorporate something called a breadboard that lets us put all these electronic pieces together without having to fasten them to each other, which can sometimes be kind of complicated. And so we'll talk about that as we work through here. And so we're going to do, the very first thing we're going to do is actually wire our circuit. And we're going to put all of those things together with our breadboard. And so you are looking for the piece that looks like this. I'm just going to take it out of the package, and you need both the breadboard and the little piece of cardboard that goes with it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to set that breadboard here on that piece of cardboard. We're going to actually kind of wedge it in. These black pieces, we're going to put some foam on there so we keep it from sliding around. Now, here's the thing that's important about the breadboard. So it doesn't look very impressive. It looks like it's just a piece of plastic with a lot of little holes in it. But if you look at your diagram on page 7 of your instruction kit, this is what's happening with the breadboard. So if we had to take all of these little pieces that we've got in our little electronics kit, if we had to take all of those pieces and solder all of those pieces together with molten metal, it's a difficult thing to do. It's a really delicate process. And so if you've worked with a soldering gun and you've ever had a burn from a soldering gun, you know that that's not really something you want to do. And so we're going to use a breadboard instead. And so what the breadboard does is inside that piece of plastic, inside all these holes, there are pieces of wire. And we're going to take our electronic pieces and we're going to punch those down into our breadboard. And as soon as they touch those electric wires that are in there, we're closing circuits and we're giving a place for that electricity to flow. So electrons have to have contact between those metals before they can flow and create that current of electricity. So if we connect things that are attached by wires correctly, and we create the circuit, what we're going to do is on that breadboard, we're going to make all of these connections. And because we make all of those connections and create a closed circuit, then we're going to be able to get that electricity to flow. We're going to have a switch in our battery pack that starts that flow of electrons. And if all of our pieces aren't connected correctly in our breadboard, then we're going to have an open circuit and we're not going to be able to get things to work. And we're not going to get that flow of electricity, and we won't get the speaker to vibrate, and we won't get sound, and you won't get to hear your music with your little speaker. So this package has got several different pieces in it, and we are actually going to take those pieces and set them away. And we're going to take those little foam pieces and set them to the side for a minute. This is the set of foam pieces that we want. I'm going to go ahead and take this piece of it's really just mostly like a plastic net, almost a screen like you see on a window screen. It's the same kind of idea, and it's plastic. We'll set it aside too. But what we want are 2 of these little corner pieces. And so what you're going to do is take those little corner pieces and set them on that piece of cardboard, and that's just going to kind of give us a opportunity to keep that breadboard from sliding around. Okay. So turn this around so I can get to it easily. The breadboard has got a sticker on the back of it as well, but we don't want to use that yet. We're going to use that when we get ready to put the breadboard into the speaker itself. Okay, so I've put those pieces of foam there, and so my breadboard shouldn't slide around a whole lot. We've got some extra pieces of foam. We're going to set those aside because we're going to need those in a little while. But now I've got this little breadboard that I'm ready to work with. And you'll notice on your piece of cardboard that you've got your rows numbered. The first top up here are numbered 1 through 5. And then we go to this other half of the breadboard and they're labeled 6 through 10. And then all the way across, your columns are labeled A through Q. And we've got that labeled at the top and the bottom so that you can be sure of where you're attaching pieces to your breadboard. And so turn the page and we're ready to get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually get part of your, we're actually going to work on the back of your speaker. So we're going to take those 2 pieces out. The front of your speaker has the opening for your sound. It says kiwico on the bottom of it. We're going to set that aside for a little bit. We're actually going to work with your back of your speaker. Okay, so what we're going to do is put your audio jack in first. And so you're going to take this package that's got your speaker in it. And you've got a couple of different pieces in there. So there's your actual speaker here, and it's got 2 wires connected to it. And then we've got, we'll set that aside for a minute. We've got another piece here that we'll talk about in a minute or so. And then we've got our audio jack, okay? So we're gonna use our audio jack and just go ahead and put that together. Now, if you were excited about using this little speaker with your iPhone, and you've got an iPhone that's got a lightning jack on it, then you are going to be a little disappointed. So if you've got one of those little connectors that's your lightning to audio, and I have one somewhere and have torn my office apart looking for it and haven't been able to find it, you can use that. But otherwise, it's just going to have to plug into something with a standard audio jack. And that's why I've got my old laptop hooked up over there, because it's not going to work on my iPhone, which I was kind of disappointed about when I got started. But as soon as I find that little audio jack, that little connector, which is in this office somewhere, I'll be able to use it on mine. Okay, so we're on to step 3, and we're getting ready to put this audio jack together. And you want to take your back of your wall of your speaker, and you want to turn it so your rectangle is at the top left. And what we're going to do is take your plastic nut, that's this right here, okay? And we're going to attach that to the other component of our audio jack. So our jack is going to go through the back. So I've still got my left-hand side here, and then we're going to screw this nut on. Okay, so I'm going to turn mine vertically so you can see that. And that's just the other connector to our jack. Okay, so now I've got my wire with my connector. I'm going to take that and I'm going to push it down in there, and you want to push it in until it clicks. Okay, so hopefully you heard that click. So that's not coming loose for me. That's there. Now you can pull it back out. And actually I had to take my other speaker apart a couple of times. So I've had to pull that in and out. But for that to work and for us to get sound input to the speaker, it needs to be popped down in there until you hear it click. Okay, so there's the back of our speaker. We're just going to set that aside again for a minute because we're not going to need it for a while. And we're going to take our battery pack. Battery packs are pretty easy to use. You've seen them before. Take those little screws out. You're not going to need those right away. This uses 2 AA batteries, and the speaker has an on-off switch, which is good because it won't run your batteries down unless you're actually using it. It's a little tricky to take the speaker apart. But you've got a screwdriver that will be available for you to do that when you need to replace your batteries. But we're just going to take our battery pack apart, okay, and put your batteries in. So you've got a positive end and a negative end. Your positive end has the little exposed end. Your negative end is flat. And the negative end is going to go in by the spring. And make sure those are popped down in there. And then we'll just put that little lid back on there. So I dropped my first speaker that I built. I dropped it on the floor. And then I could hear it rattling around. So the first time I took it apart, I had to take it apart because things were rattling on the inside and it was not working. When I dropped it, the top came off of my battery case. And my batteries were rolling around, so nothing was going to work for me. Okay, so I'm going to move my instructions over so I can see that. But we're going to take our breadboard. We're going to start making attachments to our breadboard. So you've got 2 leads on your battery pack. You've got a red lead and a black lead, and you're going to put those into A10 and C10. Okay. So if you look at your instructions on page 9, it says put the red wire in A10. That's going to be this very bottom corner down here. And they're not going to go in and snap in, okay? They're going to be a little bit loose. Don't worry about it. They're pretty sturdy. As long as you've got a connection, you've got those wires touching each other, you'll still have connection and you won't have to worry so much about losing your connection. Okay, move this out of the way. Okay, so then we're going to take our black wire and we're going to put it into C10. So I'm just going to go A, B, C. That's going to go into that 3rd connector or that 3rd opening in my breadboard. And now I've made the first part of my circuit. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to want to do is, as we work on this breadboard, we're going to want to try to make sure that our circuits stay connected. And so you'll just periodically want to go back and just kind of press down on things and make sure that they're seated where they need to be seated. Okay. All right. So we want to try to complete our circuit here for just a second. We're going to take 2 of the yellow connectors, and these are just wire. They're just things that are going to let us continue to build our circuit and close loops as we need to. And we're going to put those in A5 and A7 and C5 and C7. So those are going to go vertically. And if you remember our picture of our breadboard, the wires ran along the bottom half in columns, and they ran along the top half in columns. But the top half of the breadboard and the bottom half of the breadboard are not attached to each other. So what we're going to do with these wires is create a connection between the top half of the breadboard and the bottom half of the breadboard so that we can get electricity to flow from this half to this half and back as we need it to. Okay, so you're going to go A5 to A7, and A5 is the bottom. And turn it this way so I can get to it. A5 is the bottom hole here, and A7 is going to be the second hole in. And I'm going to just put that yellow. And the nice thing about it is they are the perfect length, and we're just going to slide those down in there. And they'll go all the way down in and fit tight against the top of that breadboard. So I'm going to pull that down just a little bit. And of course, the fact that it's yellow doesn't help much. But there you go. Let me hit that autofocus again. Okay, so there you can see it's right there. Okay, so now what we've got is a connection between the red lead of our battery pack hitting that wire that runs here. And now that wire is connected to the wire inside the breadboard on the top half. And we want to do the same thing for our black lead. And so I'm going to go C5 to C7. If you'll look, those are in the right spot, and I'm just going to press those down too.
You said C5 to what?
So when I put those in, get where the glare is. Can't see. Let me do this. Move this a little bit. Okay, so C5 to C7 is that bottom one, and A5 to A7. And what we're doing is just bridging the gap between the top and the bottom halves of the breadboard. Okay. All right. You gotta have fingers that work really well on this. And I have old fingers, and sometimes things don't work as well for me. But I've got those two sides of the breadboard connected now. And so now I can start putting stuff up here and connecting things on this half of the circuit that will be connected to my battery pack. And so when I turn my battery pack on, then I should be able to see some things happening. And that's the first thing that we're going to do on the next page. So once you get those two yellow wires in, then you've got some LEDs. And LED lights are great because they don't have a filament in them and they don't burn out. It's not for a really long time. So we're going to get a flow of electricity through those to create some light in our speakers. So our speaker's actually going to light up. So when you look at your instructions, it tells you that you can pick 1 or 2 or 3 of those. You can do whatever you want. I put 3 LED lights in my first speaker. Get a drink of Coke there. I'm just going to put 1 in this one, but you can connect all 3. I'm going to do 1 just because I think it's going to be an easier thing for you all to see as I put these connectors together. Okay, I'm going to pick the blue. I'm going to put the green and the white to the side. And when you look at your LED, you'll notice that, got to get it up here where you can see it. You'll notice that one end of the LED or one wire of the LED is longer than the other. Okay, and so that's going to determine how you put the LED into the circuit board. So you're going to connect your long leg to A1. That's going to be the very top hole up here. And your short leg, whoops, what have I done here? Your short leg is going to go into C1. So well, I can see this. That is not C1, C2. There we go. So I'm going to push that down in there. And now I've got my LED in A1 and C1. So I'm going to turn this again just a little bit so you can see See, there's a separation between the two. Turn it this way. You can see that it's in A1 and C1. I'll get that focus again. All right, see A1 and C1 there. Okay. Now, if you want to use all three of your LEDs, that is perfectly all right that you do that. Those need to go in some very specific spots too. So if you're going to put a second one in, they need to go in A3 and C3. So you're skipping your second row. Let me find something. So you'll skip this row. And your second LED would go into C1 and C3. I'm sorry, A3 and C3. That makes more sense. And then if you want to put a third one in, those will go A4 and C4. Okay, so use all three LEDs if you want to. That is perfectly all right. Just make sure that you get them in the right circuits or they're not going to light up. Okay. All right, I just want to make sure that this works, and you do too. So I'm actually going to switch this to on. And if you saw that, you can't really tell that it's blue, I don't think, but my circuit is complete. My light is lighting up. So that's good. So I've done what I needed to complete my circuit. Things are going well for me. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit, so I can get some room for get my big fat fingers in there. Okay, but we're not finished yet. We still got a lot of stuff that we need to do. And so the next thing that I want you to do is get one of your purple wires, because we need to make some bigger and longer connections. We're going to hook up the other side, the right-hand side of our breadboard to the left-hand side of our breadboard. And so you're going to take one of your purple connectors and you're going to connect that from C2 to J2. Now, again, the really nice thing about this is that these things are the perfect length. And so when you move over here, you should go right from C2 to J2. I'm going to push those in. You all are going to laugh at me because at one point in this build, I'm going to have to take my glasses off and get right down in underneath this thing to be able to look at it. Okay, so I'm going to tilt that up a little bit so that you can see that I've got those in C2 right below the short wire of my LED across to J2. Okay, and so now what I've done is I've taken this connection, all of this, touching that wire that's inside the breadboard, and I've extended an opportunity for me to connect some other things over here on this half of the board. And so what we're going to do is take the transistor and we're going to attach the transistor to our circuit. So I don't know if you all are old enough to remember, but radios that were portable radios used to be called transistor radios. And you don't really hear that term so much anymore because we have so many different electronics that will produce sound. But in the old days, you'd get a radio that was, it was some of them were bigger, but now you can't see because you can't see my hands. Let me pull this back out here a little bit. So you get a radio that's about this size, It was black. It had a knob on it for you to turn to dial in your stations. And it was called a transistor radio. And it was because of things like this little piece. Okay. So this is a transistor. So I want to talk to you about what a transistor does before we put it in. And that description is actually on the next page of your book. And so what transistors do is they amplify the electricity that's running through your system. And they've got 3 legs on them. That first leg on the left is called your base. They call it a pin. And that is where that's where your electricity in your circuit is running. It will run up through that leg. Well, that second one is called your collector. And what your collector does is that it just takes a little bit of extra electricity beyond what's needed to complete your circuit, and it pulls that electricity in. And so as your electrical current flows across your transistor, it pulls in that extra bit of electricity. And when that electricity flows back out that third leg or pin, that's your emitter. Well, now we've increased the flow of electricity. And because we've increased the flow of electricity, then we're going to get a bigger current. And so that can increase sound, or it can increase the amount of power that the whatever is using the transistor needs. Okay. So what we're doing is we're actually amplifying our electrical flow here so we can get a bigger sound out of our speaker when it comes out through there. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to this page in front, and I'm going to pull this back down a little bit so you can see. Hit that focus button again so it gets a little bit clearer. And we're going to put your transistor in H, I, and J1. Okay, so the end of our purple wire went into J1. And so we're going to take our transistor and we're going to push it in to H, I, and J. And it's going to sit right there above that purple wire. And when you look at step 9 in your instructions, let me pull this over and try to pull it slow enough so it doesn't go crazy. When you look there, you can see that's where it should sit. If yours is not sitting right there at the end of your purple wire, then we're going to have a problem with our collection of our extra electricity. Okay.
Miss, what did the purple little thing go in?
What the purple wire goes in C2 to J2. So your purple wire should sit, let me pull this back over here again. Your purple wire, the left-hand side of it should sit in the hole right underneath that very first LED, okay? And those wires are built so that they go straight up and down into the spaces that they'll need to be in. So you shouldn't have any trouble with your purple wire going
C2
to J2. So straight across there. Okay. Pull this down again just a little bit. And again, with that glare, which we can't do anything about because otherwise I'll be working in the dark. Let's turn it. Let's see. I don't know, that light is just not shining on that. There we go, maybe. So you can see that end is lined up in C2. And then if you look, we've got that wire in J2 and J1 has got your transistor in it, okay? So keep in mind that as you're looking at this with your instructions, you're always going to have these insets. These circles are going to show you where those things need to line up so that you can go back and double check with your breadboard. Okay. All right. I'll give you a second to get caught up with me. Let me go over here and look to see what my next spot is because I can't remember. Okay, we got a resistor. That's what we're going to do next. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is add a resistor. And you're going to pick one of your tan resistors. It looks like this. It's got some red stripes on it. And we're going to bend our tan resistor, okay? So, oh, I have skipped a step. Hang on a second. Ooh, I just went too far. Before you do anything with your resistor, we were going to not have a complete circuit, and I was going to be really upset when things didn't work. You're going to need another yellow connector wire, and you're going to need a purple connector wire. Oops. Okay. And again, all those yellow and purple wires are just linking wires inside our breadboard together so that we can continue our flow of electricity. So we're actually on step 10, and I thought I was ahead of myself. We're going to go step 10, and we're going to take one of those yellow wires, and we're going to go H3 to L3, okay? H3 to L3. Now, when you look here, that's where that yellow wire is going to go. So we're actually going underneath the purple wire that's already there, and the same hole, same column that our transistor starts in, we're going to put that yellow wire in. Okay, so I'm going to go H3 to L3. Y'all, this is where I hate to do this. I've got to take my glasses off, and I've got to get down close to this. So y'all just don't laugh at me. I'm going to pull it out of the way so I can see it. I'm going to go H3, and that wire is going to go straight across into L3. I'm going to push that down. Okay. It's terrible getting old and needing bifocals. And you all just laugh at me all you want to. But what you're going to see is that yellow is going to line up with the first pin or leg of your transistor, and then it's going to go across two past where that transistor ends up, okay? So H3 to L3. And then we're going to take our purple wire, and we're going to go I4 to P4. So your transistor is in H, I, and J, and we've taken a wire and connected H to L. So what we've done is collected flow of electricity that's coming in to your first pin of your transistor, and we've connected that loop to a different spot. And then we're going to take a spot, and we're going to take your middle pin, and we're going to connect it. Okay, so the purple is going I4 to P4. So I'm going down one more row, and I'm actually moving over one spot from where I started my yellow wire, and I'm going in with my, got somebody in the waiting room, hang on. Okay, I've got now my yellow wire, one over from it, I've got my purple wire, and now my purple wire is going all the way over to column P, which is the second to last column on the breadboard. Okay, so I've just got what I'm doing with those are just making some more spaces for me to connect some extra stuff. Okay. Just because I'm going to double check, yeah, my light still comes on. Nothing else is happening, but I do know that that light is still connected. I'm just trying to make sure everything is staying tucked in where it's supposed to be. Okay, now we're going to take our 10 resistor, okay? And resistors change the flow of electricity. So you can actually use a resistor like with a volume knob. And as you turn that knob to control the electricity that flows through that resistor, then you can make the sound louder or softer. You can make things, if you've got it attached to a motor that has something that will rotate on it, you can make things rotate faster or slower. But that's what a resistor does for you, okay? Now here's the thing that we have to do with the resistor. Slide this stuff out of the way for a second so you can see. We're going to take that resistor and we're going to bend the wire straight down on both sides. Okay. And they're pretty sturdy, so don't worry if they don't look like they're 90 degrees, because you can kind of manipulate them to be that way. But you're going to bend that wire so that that's at a 90-degree angle on each side, okay? Now, here's the problem. If we were to take this and put this resistor into our breadboard like this, then we've got this resistor that's hanging out way here above the breadboard, and it fits in there pretty loose. So we don't want to do that. So, you know, it's no big deal. We're going to cut the wire a little bit shorter. So this is why you need your scissors. So it tells you to fold the wire down at a 90-degree angle and cut the wires halfway. And it actually tells you to do that the opposite direction. It tells you to cut them and then bend them. But I'd like to do it this way. That way I know I've got the same size. So I'm just going to take that. I'm just going to cut those pieces off. And my little wire pieces went flying around the room. That doesn't matter, because now I've got a little bit shorter resistor, okay? Yeah, I'm going to put that in there and look. Yeah, that's pretty good, but I'm going to cut mine off just a little bit shorter. Just to get them down closer to the breadboard, okay? And so you're going to take your resistor once you cut it, and you're going to put it in L5 to P5. L5 to P5. And what that means is that the left edge of your resistor is going to line up in the same column as the right edge of your yellow wire. And the right edge of your purple wire should line up with the right edge of your resistor. Okay. So get that in there. This is another one of those cases of I can't see with my glasses. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So see how my resistor has lined up. It's lined up at the right edge with my purple wire. And then it's a little bit harder to see, but there's the left edge of my resistor. And I go 2 steps up, and there's the right edge of my yellow. Okay. And so again, you've got your picture in your book that shows you where that should be. Okay. So I'm just making more connections with my battery pack. All of these things are all now connected again. I'm still going to turn on my light just so you can see. The light came on. Nothing else seems to be happening because the only closed part of my circuit that I have right now are the battery to the light and back to the battery again. I've got all these other connections, but I haven't finished the loop yet. So we're not going to see anything else happen until I finish that loop. Okay. All right. Okay, on page 18 of your instructions, now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of just make connections back from the top half of our breadboard down to the bottom half of our breadboard. Okay, so I'm going to need another wire to make that connection. We're getting close to finishing our loop, believe it or not, and then we'll get into some actual building rather than some connecting. This is another one of those times when I'm probably going to have to take my glasses off, but you're going to take your yellow wire and you're going to connect your yellow wire from H5 to H7. Now, H on our breadboard is where that yellow is, and the first leg of our pin of our transistor. So we're working in this column, and we're going to go H5 and across the center of the breadboard to H7. Okay, so what we're doing is we're connecting all of these things that are on the top half of the breadboard back down to the bottom half so that we can get ready to close this loop. Okay, don't laugh. Here go my glasses off again. I've got to be able to see these holes to get this in here. So I'm going H5 to H7. I'm going here. Telling y'all, it's terrible, terrible, terrible getting old. Okay, that should be H5 to H7. I'm going to skip H6. That's the first row on the bottom half. And of course, that's at a wrong angle for you to be able to see it. Let me see if I can pull it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, move that red wire out of the way. Let's get back to some, okay. So I'm going to push that down. And that should line up. That should line up with the left edge of your yellow wire on the top half. Okay. The light in here is terrible today, y'all. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay. So I'll put my hand in the spot so that you can see. As soon as I move that hand, yeah, okay. Nope, it's not that hand, it's this hand. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, here's what I think is the hardest part of the whole build. And the other part of it is just getting these connectors put together. So we're going to take the capacitor. And here's the capacitor. Okay, I'm going to pull the camera up just a little bit so you can see my hands. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, so here's your capacitor. And you've got a long leg and a short leg, okay? And we want to turn our capacitor. The capacitor's got a silver stripe on it. You see that? And when you turn it over the other direction, on the opposite side, there's not one, okay? So what I want you to do is to hold that capacitor in your hands so that that silver stripe is on your left-hand side with the shorter leg, and your longer leg is on the right-hand side. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to bend this longer leg so that when you look at the wires, it looks like the bottom half of a lowercase h. I know that sounds completely bizarre. Don't start bending until I get mine bent, okay? But you're going to bend yours so that it looks like that. And if you think about it, here's my H, down and back around, okay? Now the picture in your book is much more extreme, and no matter what I do, I can't get it to look like that. And I don't know why. The nice thing about it is you can mess around with it quite a bit to get it to bend like that. Okay. And the only reason that we're bending that wire is so that we can make the connection that we need to. Okay. Now we're going to cut the legs off again. And we want to cut them so that they're level. And we're going to put this down in the breadboard. So I'm going to cut them off. No, I'm not going to cut them off horribly short, but I'm going to cut them like that. All right. Again, wires have gone flying everywhere. And then if I don't like that, I may go back and trim that again. Okay. But now I've got this little kind of, I don't know, I think it looks like I think it looks like two legs, a person inside a barrel. That's what I think it looks like. Okay. They're standing inside the barrel. Okay. Now the straight leg is going to go into H10. All right, H10. So we're all the way down here at the bottom, which is nice because you can see the letters again. You know, they line up a little bit better. There's H. So that's going to be our straight leg. It's going into that one. And then our bent leg is going into L10. Right, so we're going to go H-I-J-K-L. And the nice thing is if it's not lining up into L, then you can manipulate it in there. So H-I-J-K-L. All right. And you can just push that on down in there. And I was afraid I was going to have to cut mine again because I didn't think it would be short enough, but it is. So you can see from the side how close it is to the breadboard, just because I don't want it, you know, swinging around all over everything. All right, so now we've got this lined up with our yellow wire as we move across there. And we're getting really close to being done.
What was the letter?
Say that again, Naviana.
What was the letters?
The letters, it should go in H10 to L10.
Okay, thank you. H10.
Okay. And so it should line up right underneath that vertical yellow, this yellow wire that's straight up and down. Okay. And so what you're seeing is it's connected on the same line as your transistor is. So all those things are all connected together. But as difficult as this is putting these things together with this breadboard, imagine if we were trying to connect all those wires to one another and twist them or melt them together so that they're all connected and keep track of them. So this is a little tiny breadboard, and it's a kind of a pain in the rear end to have to deal with, but it's a whole lot better than trying to do it with without the breadboard. Okay. All right. So if you turn to page 20 in your book, you'll start seeing that we're getting pretty close because we're getting ready to connect our audio input into our breadboard. So you're going back and getting your back of your speaker. Here we go. I'm going to have to pull this out a little bit. We're going to get the back of your speaker. We're focusing again. And your audio jack has got two wires too. So it's got a black one and a yellow one. One of those is going to be attached to our circuit in one spot, and then we're going to put the other one in the other spot. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your black wire and you're going to put it in C8. Now C is the column where your black battery pack wire is. So we're doing the black to the black. We'll turn this to its side a little bit. Okay. Pull this down a little bit. Okay. So our black wire from our jack is going into C8. And if you look, your battery is in C10. C9 is going to stay empty. And C8 is going to be right below that yellow wire. Okay. Where's that light? Autofocus that again and get some. No, not really. All right. Right here is your yellow wire, and it is in C7. Your black wire to your speaker is in C10. So you're going to put this black wire from your audio right below where that yellow wire is. I can't understand why. Sometimes you all can see those yellow wires. Sometimes you can't. Can't figure out where the light's coming from. I should keep moving my hand instead of moving the, there we go. There we go. Okay. So that black audio wire has gone in right next to that yellow wire. Okay. And then we're going to add our yellow wire to L6. And so L6 is over here. My transistor wants to lay down. I'm going to go, just going to go count backwards. Okay. Here's Q, P, O, N, M, L. And when you look at that, that lines up with the crooked leg of your capacitor. So I'm crazy that I'm trying to get that light so you can see that. And believe it or not, we're getting really close to having everything attached. We've got one more thing to attach. And then we'll know for sure whether we've got things connected. Okay. All right. Turn my light on just to make sure. Okay, yeah, my light's still shining. That's good. All right, now here's where you wish you had two sets of hands instead of just one, because we're going to take our speaker now and we're going to connect our speaker. So let me pull this back up again. And the good thing about this being recorded is if you don't get things done right now, you can go back and watch the recording later and pause it and watch what you want to do, watch things over and over again. So first of all, your speaker on the inside of this, you can't really tell, but inside of here, there's a magnet and a coil of wire. And so when we run electricity through there, we're going to set up what's called an electromagnetic field. And the coil of wire running around the magnet is going to create this field. And anytime that you have electromagnetic radiation or electromagnetic field, then you can create waves. And we're going to create sound waves. And there's a really nice description of those on your next page. But those sound waves then cause vibrations. And so as those sound waves are emitted from that electromagnetic field, they're going to cause this little diaphragm that's inside our speaker to vibrate. And that's where sound comes from. Is sound is actual physical vibrations of objects that those waves pass through. And so what we want to do is take the vibrations that are creating sound here, and we want to amplify them and make them bigger. And so that's what we're doing with all this electricity. And that's why we've got that transistor. We're going to pull that extra electricity in to cause those vibrations to be just a little bit bigger inside our speaker so that we can get a pretty decent amount of sound. Okay. So we're going to connect our speaker to our breadboard. I'm going to turn things back around here again. So we've got it horizontal again, because I'm going to use row 2. So I haven't used row 2 except for one purple connector, and I'm going to connect my speaker in row 2. So right underneath my LED light in column A, I'm going to put my red wire for my speaker into A2. Okay, into A2. And so that's connected now. And then the last column where I have put anything is in column P. I didn't use column Q on my breadboard. I'm going to take my black wire and I'm going to put it into P2. And as soon as I do that, I now have completed my circuit. Okay. So when you look at your picture, your red wire should go right underneath the left-hand wire of your LED light. And your black wire should go all the way over to row P, or column P, I guess. And it should go into the second row. There should be one blank hole between your purple wire and your speaker wire. And mine is like that, okay? And so now we've got to take all of this stuff and manipulate it into a speaker box. And that's where you need another pair of hands, okay? You're not gonna have another pair of hands unless you got somebody there to help you, but that's where you want it. Okay, so I've connected everything again. I'm gonna turn that light back on. There we go, that light lights up. And now if I had my speaker connected to something, I should get some sound out of my speaker. So let me move some stuff out of the way. I'm going to pull my other computer, my old laptop. I'm going to pull the old speaker out of it. I'm going to turn the sound up on my computer. If I can find the sound on it. The sound is as loud actually on my computer as it can go. So listen to great 80s music on there. It's Tracy Chapman. There's my computer. I'm going over here into my sound jack. I'm going to plug this in. And now my computer has said, hey, you've got something plugged in and I don't know what it is. So let me tell. And I should be getting some sound and I'm not. So somewhere I've got a connection that's not working, which means that I've got to go back and troubleshoot. All right, so I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to just double check. And I've got a diagram here that tells me where everything should be. I'm going to turn Tracy off again for just a minute. And now I'm going to go back and check everything. And that's going to be a little bit time consuming for me. But I still got 30 minutes with you all. So we'll see how we do, okay? All right, so I'm looking at my LED should be in A1 and C1, and it is. And then I should have my speaker hooked up into, that's the pink on your diagram. Here, let me see if I can't. Hang on just a second. Let me get some stuff rearranged here. All right, there we go. That'll work. All right. So the blues are my LED, and I've got those hooked up the way they should. And the two pinks on my diagram are my speakers, and those should be in, and they are. Ooh, one of them wasn't. Let me try this again. Play, Tracy. Still nothing. All right, well, I'm just going to leave her hooked up there. Let's see what we can do. All right, I'm going to look at my transistor, and it should be in HI and J. And my transistor is in HI and J, and it just does not want to stay in there very well. Ooh, there we go. Let me try this again. Oh, yay, my transistor was loose and it was not working well. And I don't have very good sound. I'm gonna come over here to my, I don't know where my speaker, I don't know where my speaker is on my computer. I don't know if you can hear that. It is really, really quiet. I have to do some amplifications and setting this up a little bit more. But mine is making sounds now. That's good news. So if yours is not, start with that transistor and see if you can't get it punched down in there farther. Yeah, mine is not working well, but it's working. Oh, something else has come loose. Let me see. All right, mine's connected. I'm gonna turn it back off because I know everything's there. I'm gonna do one thing with mine just because I think that that's where part of my problem is. I'm gonna cut my resistor off just a little bit. I just think it's not long enough. I think it's too long. I don't think I'm getting a good connection. So I'm gonna cut that off and I'm gonna put it back in. And so that goes into Q5, whatever that other one is. Yeah, that's better for me. So I don't think that my resistor was cut short enough. And so I've trimmed it down too. So my two problems were my transistor, that pin. I didn't have it pushed in far enough. And my resistor, that little tan resistor. Can't get my fingertip. I'm watching the camera. I don't think I had the leads on that short enough. So I trimmed that and put that in there. Okay. So we've got some music on there. And then there's a little experiment that we're going to try. And that is we're going to take one of our blue resistors and we're just going to see what happens when we replace our tan resistor with the blue resistor. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out, get it out of the way again, so it's not bothering us. And I am going to I'm going to do my blue resistor like I did my tan resistor. I'm going to bend it first. And then I'm going to cut it off. Then I'm going to take my tan resistor back out and put this blue one in. And I didn't try this little experiment before, so I have no idea how it's going to work. But it said, let's see what your sound difference is when you put that in. So told me to adjust the volume on my speaker, tell me which one sounds better.
What did the blue one go in?
I think the blue one is a little clearer for me than the tan one is. Somebody said something to me. Who was that? Maybe Anna, what'd you say?
I said, what did the blue one go in?
It goes in exactly the same spot that the tan one was in. And I don't know whether it makes a difference or not. But now that I've taken the tan one out and put the blue one in, I'm just gonna leave it that way because it's too much work to take those out and put those back in because I'm too old and too blind. Okay. Now we're going to build the case for this thing, and this is not horribly hard, but it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering. Okay, so we don't need this close-up view of our breadboard anymore. I'm going to pull this up a little bit so that you can kind of see as I put everything together now. Turn John Mellencamp off for a little bit. So in order to move this stuff around, I'm actually going to unplug. I'm going to unplug that wire, that audio wire, just because I can manipulate my speaker system a little bit better. But we're going to start fastening all of this stuff to our speaker walls. And so we're going to need some stickers for that. And so you're going to take your white stickers. You can't see again. You know what? I've never had this much trouble with the light in this room before today. We're going to take one of the long pieces of longer stickers, the bigger rectangles. So there it is. You can see it better now that I've pulled it off the white paper. And we're going to stick that on the battery pack here underneath where our switch is. So you're just putting it on like that. Okay. And then we're going to fasten our battery pack to the wall of our speaker. So it says, you know, have your speaker lined up so that the switch started out on its left side. But we're going to turn it so that it's looks like this. Okay. And we're going to just take our speaker. I'm going to peel that sticky off. And what we want to do is we want to line up our on-off switch so that it lines up with that hole. So I'm going to stick it so it does like that. So I've got mine line. It's not straight, which normally would bother me, but I'm not going to worry about it today. Okay. So I've got that lined up so that when I'm looking at the back side of my speaker, I can turn it on and off. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fasten our breadboard to our to our speaker. Okay, so I'm going to take the breadboard off of here. I don't need that card anymore. And my breadboard has got a yellow piece on it that is sticky. We're going to take that off and we're going to put this on as well. Okay. So we're going to turn this. Hang on a second. I got to get this turned so that it makes sense for me. It really doesn't matter. We're going to turn this so that we can fit it on. Oh, I knew that was going to bother me. Y'all hang on a second. Tell you what, that adhesive backing sticks. Get that on there straight enough, and that's going to bother me. The nice thing is, I told you they give you extra stickers, so I'm going to put that extra sticker on here. Put that together. All right, so I don't know why this thing looks like it's backwards from what. I can fix that though too. Yours is probably fine. Mine probably is not. The nice thing about these little kits is that almost everything we have built over the last year is you can take stuff apart if you need to. which is good because I sometimes make mistakes. I don't like to admit it, but I do. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to attach that to the board again. Line up my switch. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. And then I'm going to take my breadboard and I'm going to line my breadboard up. Now turn your breadboard so that your transistor lines up with the side of the battery pack. Make sure you don't have all of your wires stuck underneath like I did. And we're just going to put that in the center and stick that right there. Okay. Now it tells me to line it up. Again. I think that'll be okay. You should line yours up so it goes right there. I'm afraid to take mine apart because I'm afraid I'm going to rip it again. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to take mine apart. I'm going to leave it right where it is. And then if we have a problem, I'll have to go back and fix mine. Okay. What a mess this looks like, right? I'm just going to double check to make sure that my light still comes on. Yeah, I've still got a light shining. I don't think you can see it. Yeah, maybe you can. It's right there. But everything's still working for me, so I'm still good. I'll make mine work if I have to. All right, now we got to put the speaker box together. So you need this piece, okay? And we're going to turn it so that our Kiwi logo is down, all right? And now you've got all these other little pieces of foam, and we're going to take the smaller squares or triangles, whatever you want to call them, and we're going to put them in each of these side pieces or spaces, I guess. We're not going to put them in the up and down yet. We're going to put them in the side slots. Everything is stuck to my fingers. I will say that of all of the Kiwi kits that we've done, I hate to tell you all this, but this one's probably my least favorite. I haven't really, this one's okay. My favorite one that we've ever done were the speakers or the headphones that we built last spring. Same kinds of ideas as this one, but way more fun to build and way more fun to use. And so, I don't know, we may give it a year or so and then we'll build those speakers again for people who didn't get a chance to do those the first go around. Maybe we can make that a summer activity and not do it a Zoom, but do it everybody live. Okay, so I'm going to take that mesh or that film, and I'm going to attach it to those sticky pieces. So it'll line up a couple of different ways on there, but there's only one way where it'll fit and hit all four of those pieces. Okay, so I'm just sticking that down, and that's just the mesh that you see on any speaker. So that you don't actually touch the diaphragm of the speaker. Okay, so then we've got this plastic plate, and we're going to use this plastic plate on our speaker. And so you'll notice that you got a shorter side on your wood piece and a longer side, and we're going to line our speaker up the same way. And we're going to make sure I've got it laid the right way. You'll notice that you've got a spot where there's a clear ridge. And what's going to happen is that speaker is just going to fit right down inside that, like this. Okay. So we're going to attach that on here like this, okay? So let me think about how to tell you how to do this. So we're going to take our two more pieces of foam, and we're going to put one at the top and the bottom. And I'm kind of skipping around in the directions now because I had to think about this the first time I built this. I'm going to peel the backing off of those. Right, sticking to my fingers. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put that speaker in, and we want it to, can't figure out how to tell you how to do this. We want that speaker to fit down in there. So I'm going to unplug my speaker. So I'm taking the red out of the P2, and the black out of the P2, and the red out of the A2, and pulling those out. Okay. And then we want that speaker to sit down in that well. So here I think is the easiest way to tell you. Take that plastic piece so that you can feel the well underneath it. And we're just going to take those wires and slide that through and drop it in. Okay. And when you drop it in, then it's going to sit down in that well plate. Okay. I don't know any other way to tell you how to do it except like that. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to turn this thing over so that your diaphragm sits on your wooden piece, and then those plastic pieces are going to stick, those sticky pieces are going to stick to your foam here and there, okay? So what we want is when we put this in is we want everything to be flat and smooth. So I'm going to turn this over, and my speaker is sitting in that little well plate, and I can just hold it like this and it won't go anywhere. And then I'm going to take this plastic piece and line those holes up. Okay, so we've got to screw through those holes when we fasten these things together. So this is why I tell you having multiple hands would be nice. So there's my top two fastened together. So, just like that there. Okay. Now, all of that's one piece. You see how I've done that? And that's just going to take you a little bit of maneuvering on your part to get those pieces together. So, now what we're going to do is wait. Something doesn't seem to be right here. I've forgotten what I've done. Because we've got these stickers that we want to put in here. Yeah, I think this is right now that I think on it. We're going to take these pieces and we're going to cover up. Yeah, that's what we need to do. We're going to cover up here on our plastic side. We're going to cover up those open spaces because those are going to diffuse the light from our LED. So when you know how bright an LED light is when you look at it directly. So get those laid down here smoothly. Okay. We're just covering up that space so that we are not going to get hit in the face with that bright blue light, or more light as you've got more of them on there. I didn't get these lined up quite. See how I've still got that one spot there? The good news is I have that other, I've got one more of these stickers. Since I didn't get mine laid out quite the way I wanted them to, I'm just going to take one more piece of that and I'm going to cover over that spot. Thank goodness for scissors. Okay. And so now then when you look at that, all you see is that white through there. And you're not going to get any overlap with those. Okay. All right. Woo, this is pretty complicated, isn't it? So now what we're going to do is we're going to put our speaker back in. Okay. Actually, I take that back. We're going to, let me just double check. Yeah, let's wait until we've got it all put together before we reattach that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put together our speaker box, and I've lost a piece of plastic because I don't, oh, it's on the floor. Don't go anywhere. So we've got this piece of plastic that is going to connect the front and the back of our speaker together. And here's what it will look like when it's done. So there's the front of the speaker, there's the back of the speaker, and then there's this black piece that's going to connect it all. Well, this black piece is really hard to maneuver. So we want to warm up the plastic a little bit, and we want to curve it a little bit. Okay, so you're going to take your speaker wall and we're going to take the top half where you can see there's a big wide gap between the first set of holes and the second set of holes, and we're going to curve this thing over. Okay, and so I want you to bend, don't fold it or crease it, but we're going to bend it over to make a curve, and we're going to just kind of line up that first set of holes with the last set of holes before you have another gap. And we just kind of want to hold that for about 30 seconds and warm that up to make that plastic a little more flexible, so that we can put these pieces together, because this is the other stuff is complicated, but this is like physically getting everything to line up the way you want it and get things to pop into the places that they're supposed to. This is like mechanically difficult. So hopefully when you have warmed this up, then it's got a little curve to it, so we can make it more easy to manipulate. Okay. So all right, so I've got mine bent up, and no matter what I did to it the other day when I built this thing, it was not great. I just had to continue to tear things apart and put things together. So you're going to need your screws. You've got your little screwdriver that is part of your kit. And get some of this other stuff out of the way. You've also got this little tiny screwdriver here, which we're not actually going to use to screw anything together. We're going to use it to pop things into holes the way we need them. And then you've got a set of interior and exterior brackets. Some that are going to go on the inside of your thing, and some that are going to go on the outside. So I'm just going to separate those out so I can see them more easily. I'm going to pull this up a little bit so that you can kind of get a view of everything that I'm working on. Focus button again. Okay. Inner brackets and outer brackets, and some screws and a couple of screwdrivers. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these interior brackets, these little thin ones, and we're going to pop those into the holes. And so we've got this first set of holes here. We're going to skip this. This is actually going to be a corner. And we're going to take this bracket and we're going to pop it into these holes, okay? And when you do, you want to pop it into the hole so that the flat side lines up with the edge, okay? We've got an indentation in this one, and that's going to be on the inside. And we want that flat, smooth edge to line up with the plastic. Now your screwdriver, your little screwdriver, is to help you with these little flaps. And so if your pieces are not fitting down in there as smoothly as you would like them to, you can take that little screwdriver and push down on those little black flaps, and your bracket will fit in there a little bit tighter. And that's all that little screwdriver is for, okay? So we've done that, and we're going to take this and we're going to fasten it now to the front top corner of our speaker. So we've got the front of the speaker with the kiwi at the bottom, and we're going to actually take this piece of plastic and we're going to fasten this to this speaker corner like this, okay? And so you're going to take one of the bigger brackets. Again, this is where you need more than one set of hands. We're going to take the bigger bracket and we're going to line that up with your speaker front, and we're going to line it up with the back side, and we're going to screw it together. Easier said than done, trust me. Okay. So I'm just going to put that screw in there. Give myself some room to work. And then I'm taking this and I'm attaching it here. So it's going right into that. It's going right into that little hole. And what should happen is then, when this is put in there correctly, that bracket should line up, and those pieces that are stuck through should line up on either side of your outer exterior bracket, whatever you want to call it. Inner bracket, outer bracket, okay? All right, and now I've gotten that piece put together, and that was a pain in the rear end, but it has worked, okay? And so what's going to happen is this is just going to fold all the way around and make the outer wall of our speaker. All right, so now we're going to work our way around, and we're going to do this. We're going to do this the rest of the way around our speaker. So I'm going to take another bracket. I want the flat side to be out or along the edge, and we'll pop it into those. Pop it into those little slots. Now, I don't know if you heard that first one popped in really well. This one doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So popping those in. Let's see if I can get this down in there so that it will stay. Once we screw this thing together, they'll stay pretty well, but getting them down in there is a whole different story. Okay, let's see if I can get that to hang on long enough for me to put a bracket together. Once I get it fastened, we'll be good. All right. Again, where's the other set of hands when I need them? So I'm lining that up. Hopefully you're still working with me. You haven't given up. I'll tell you that when I started building this the first time, I walked away from it. So there is no shame in that. If you need a break and you just want to come back and watch the video, feel free to do so. I'm not going to hurt my feelings because some of your classmates have already done that. Okay, so now we've got that one in. Okay. And this third one maybe won't be so bad. Again, the smooth edge lined up here at the edge of the plastic. Pop those things down into the. This is the spot at which I walked away the last time I did this, y'all, because this plastic is not easy to work with. I've got mine fastened so it'll stay. All right, here we go. One more bracket. Lined up. You can't see that. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that I had that camera. I apologize. So busy watching my own work that I wasn't paying attention to what you were seeing. Okay, I've got that piece down. You'll see, I think as the longer this stays bent, the more likely that those plastic pieces will look like they're fitting better. I don't do that very well right now, but I think they will as the longer they stay in this position. Now, you want to talk about a difficult spot to put together. We're going to put this last corner together, and these two pieces aren't even attached to each other. So this is where you might hear me say, oh, words. Son of a nutcracker. Okay, I think I've got those together. That's the easiest one I've done so far. And we're going to take another bracket, and at least we're going to have the front half of this thing put together. And y'all, I can't believe how much time it has taken to do this. Let me get this screw in here, and then I'll pull it back in where you can see it. Okay, all right, so there we go. I've got one last, and I don't think that screw is going in straight, but I think it will straighten up as I type it. You're not going to believe it, but the hard part is over. That's the hardest part of the whole thing. So now we've got the front half of our speaker put together. And we've got the speaker diaphragm attached or stuck in there. We've got the two wire pieces. We're going to have to reattach those. And so we are moving on to page 38. Okay. And that's where that's the spot that we're at now. Still got my kiwico sign down here at the bottom. And then you've got another set of foam pieces. Okay. You've got these foam corners. And we're actually going to take those foam corners and we're going to pop these in on each of your corners. And then we're going to attach a foam piece. Okay. So here we go one more time. Popping those in. Nikes. Use my little screwdriver to pop those plastic pieces down in there so it'll stay. Okay, I think that was good. I'm going to do that all the way around. Oh, I put it in backwards. All right, there we go. That's better. Use my little screwdriver to pop those pieces down. Okay, two more inner brackets to go. That actually went in pretty good. I think I'm going to have to complain about that one. And then here's this last one. And it may or may not cooperate. Oh, I think it went in. That's crazy. What's complaining is I have done that one perfectly. Okay, now we're going to take these little foam pieces and we're going to, I'm just take a little, there's a little circular piece in there. We don't need those. I'm taking those out. Maybe I am. There we go. You'll notice you got a couple extras of these in case one of them tears. Finish these projects and I find little foam pieces and little wires for days. All right, so I'm going to take those and I'm just going to put those here on my inner brackets. Give us a little bit of cushion. Okay, and you're just lining those up so that they fit on those inner brackets. And then we will be ready to reattach your speaker wires and screw the back on and then double check to make sure that everything works again. All right, so I've got that part of it. Okay. All right, so I want my switch for this to be on the top. So when I put this back on like this, I'm going to put it on like this. Okay. But I've got to reattach my speaker. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go back to these. And I don't remember what goes where. I think the red goes underneath the LED lights and the black on the other end, but I don't remember. So I'm going back to page 21 to double check. All right, 21 says take the red and put it in A2 right underneath your LED light. So I'm putting it in right there. And put your black in P2. So that is going, this was Q, there's P. I'll turn my switch on again just to be sure my light comes on. Maybe. Yep, I still got my light. Okay. Everything still seems to be attached pretty well. I'll turn that back off again. All right, now I'm ready to turn this upside down and put it back together. Okay, so I'm going back to the back where back to page 39. And then just set that in there. Okay, I'm going to line up my holes and then I'm going to start screwing these brackets in. And I don't think it really matters where you start. I'm going to start up here at this top right corner because I can hold on to it better. Get hold of it. Gosh, this one has taken us 2 hours today, y'all. Usually I don't force you to spend as much time online with me, but those of you who have stuck with me, good going. All right, just got 3 more to do. I can't see the holes, whether they're lined up or not. I guess we'll find out when I start trying to put this together. So imagine if you worked in a factory doing this all day long, every day. People probably don't do this by hand so much anymore. They probably got robots that will do this, but I wouldn't want to do this every day, all day long. That one's not attaching very well. So, there we go. I'll tell you what I would like to do I don't think I want to put the radios together, but I might like to be the one who programs the robots to put the radio together for me, which might be kind of cool. Or I might like to be the engineer who figures out how to build a new and exciting speaker. I can't imagine when you look at, those Bose speakers have been around for a really long time. Those Bose sound machines, and those speakers have really good quality. And so the engineers that designed those are pretty talented. But then to take those Bose machines and then turn them into Bluetooth speakers like the Dr. Dre, the Beats headphones, and to do that kind of stuff. Those guys are guys, meaning people who do that, not necessarily, but they're just men. Because I almost wonder if I only have females on the live video with me anymore, but the people who do that are pretty intelligent people, good problem solvers, have gotten some really good training. Okay, I've got a couple of screws left. I have a couple of screws loose. Those of you who have stuck around to the end, you've been waiting all day for that one, haven't you? All right. So guess what? This thing's put together. I'm going to put that audio cord in there again. I'm going to turn my computer on. I think my computer has turned off. Should keep an eye on that. Remember, if you are watching, that we are asking you to email us, not email, well, I guess you could email, text, or send through Remind a picture of your completed speaker to Miss Tammy or to Miss Aviva, so that you can get credit for your Science Saturday for October. Okay, there's the speaker on the computer. I'm gonna plug this in and see what happens. I'm gonna turn my speaker on. It's maybe not the greatest speaker in the world, but I'm okay with that. All right, y'all. We are finished building this bad boy. And I don't know if you can see, it's not bright enough in here. And I only put the one LED in here, but you can see a little bit of blue light coming through there. I may take this thing apart and put the other two LEDs in there so that I can have a little bit more light with it. But I have built my speaker, and hopefully you've built yours too. And I'm going to unshare my screen. We don't have to look at my desktop again. Stop the share. Now it's just me and Cindy Lauper. And girls just want to have fun. And y'all did a great job sticking with me today, and I appreciate that so much. Send your pictures to Aviva or Tammy. Hope school is going well. We are looking forward to seeing you, not in November, because we're going to do totally Zoom in November, just because we're going to be in and out of the office so much. But then we'll have a really great Christmas celebration that first weekend in December. We've got some good things planned for you. I have come up with a couple of little Christmas kinds of things that we're going to build and do while we're there. And we'll, we always make sure you eat well, and we'll just have a really good time that day. So Christmas will be here before we know it. It's kind of hard to believe. Thanks for sticking with me today. You guys who are watching the recording, it's a good thing you can pause and turn things off when you need to. I will post the recording here on our YouTube channel just in a little bit and send that to you as quick as I can. And then you'll be able to watch. Okay, I'll send a link out in Remind, and I'll put it in the classroom too so that you know where it is. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Stay warm, stay dry, and I will see all of you as soon. Bye.
Bye.